The world-famous water lily house is one of the garden's most popular attractions. It's been drawing the crowds for nearly 170 years, and at its summer best, it's easy to see why.
So beautiful.
It was so amazing.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like them.
First discovered in the Bolivian rainforests, this extraordinary species grows lily pads almost 2 meters wide. But what most of the visitors don't realize is that every spring, the water lilies start from scratch.
Water lilies are in the nursery, so they're having a little sleep for the winter, and they will be woken up to start them growing, and we will bring them here when we fill up the pond, and they'll be teeny tiny, but they'll grow really fast because they've got a nice fresh compost to go into and a big pot. So these plants, yeah, which is the statement, and then we lay the middle bit around.
Now in March, Solène and her team are busy preparing the house again for this year's display.
At the moment, we're planting the surrounding beds, and will be the background to the center stage, which is the pond with water lilies. So we get gourds at the back, loofah and loofah, then we've got passiflora. And the plants are really small. They're grown from cuttings every year, but everything grows very fast. And as soon as the sun and the heat kicks in May, then the plant takes over. I've been in charge of this display for the last 3 years. It's always so exciting to see those plants coming out as little babies, and it's really my favorite display. Every year it is a bit of a stress to get it all done in time, and the idea that I have, is it gonna actually work?
It's spring across Kew Gardens, with life bursting forth everywhere. And in the water lily house, Solène is busy preparing for some serious spring planting. And she's hoping for a record-breaking year.
It's gonna grow really fast and take over this pond. One of the pads might be bigger than this pot itself. This might be the biggest I've grown in my time, and maybe the biggest we've grown at Kew Gardens. So we'll see. Time will tell.
The original giant water lily, named after Queen Victoria, was found in Bolivia by plant hunters in 1801. The stories of these massive lily pads captured the public imagination, and when seeds finally arrived in Britain in the 1840s, it inspired a battle of horticultural wits.
Kew and a couple of other private estates, particularly Chatsworth and also Syon House, were all competing to try to flower this giant Amazonian lily for the first time. Sadly, for us, it was Chatsworth who won that competition in 1849. And then the following year, Kew followed suit with flowering plants.
To honour their achievement, the water lily house was built to showcase this latest arrival. When it opened in 1852, it was an immediate sensation.
The pads could be up to 2.5 metres in diameter, and famously, children have been photographed sitting on top of them because they have this amazing ability to bear weight, because they have air pockets within the actual lily pads.
It's amazing to think the water lily is grown every year from scratch. And if Solène gets her way, these pads will be 2 metres wide in 2 months' time. It's now the middle of spring. And at Kew and Wakehurst, the teams are being kept extremely busy.
We just had to keep on watching and watching and watching, just hoping that they survived.
Not least by the unseasonably warm weather.
I think we were just a little bit shocked how warm spring's been so early.
Inside and outside the glasshouses, it's a hive of activity.
So you're having to do your propagation, you're having to do seed sowing, you're having to do potting up, you're having to take cuttings as well, and all of this happens at the same time.
Selene, too, is in her element and enjoying spring in the Victorian water lily house.
This house, it's entering its prime display time. It's grown very lush this year.
One of Selene's many daily jobs is to keep it looking its very best.
If you leave the pond weed, they would cover up the whole pond in no time, so you have to keep it under control. So I still do some cleanup of the flowers and the old leaves.
For the centerpiece, Selene is growing a monster Bolivian water lily and is determined that its size will be an all-time record.
Every year I'm still amazed how quick it grows and takes over the whole house. They're almost 160. I think the record is 2 meter 40. Starting to get to a nice size now. I'm removing the flower buds because I still want it to focus on growing its large leaves. And I will let it flower in late July. And then that's when we will try to pollinate it to get some seeds for next year. They all have a really nice, sweet scent. When I'm looking up to the pond, I always get a nice sniff of them.
Over in the water lily house, against all the odds, Selene has produced an amazing display.
I'm very pleased with how it turned out. It's less crowded than the previous year.
Although it looks beautiful on the surface, under the water, it's a different story.
I've got to push them away from me because they're very spiny, and the petiole just here under the water is covered with spine.
But what we all want to know is, has she beaten the record?
So currently this is our largest pad, which measures 1.86 meters, but it's still quite far off from the Cruziana record, which I think is 2.36 meters. So we're still a bit far off.
Luckily, there's another month of the growing season to go, so Selene's still in with a chance.
The newest pad is just underwater here. The next one along is still underwater here. Then it's number 3 here, number 4, number 5, 6, 7. So it goes in the circle, sending new pads. So we'll see if any of the new pads that are unfolding would reach. Maybe 2 meters would be a nice achievement.
As spring gives way to summer, the famous gates reopen.
There we go! Woo! Morning, guys. There will be an initial rush. Being cooped up indoors for 2 months, the first thing you want to do is be in a space like Kew. It's huge, fresh air. So many people have said that they're so happy that we're reopened. People just love it here, I guess.
It's not long before the glasshouses also reopen, and the public gets to marvel at Selene's water lily house.
How big were they? How big?
Massive, about this big. If I was a frog, I'd be really happy.
They were amazing. It was nice to see them in flower.
Coming out to kind of just like unwind after being at home all this time, like with everyone. Yeah. It's just like a nice kind of, not like experience, but also just being one with nature.